From the crushing grip of the ocean to the deadly silence of the skies, some people didn't just face death, they outsmarted it. These aren't just survival stories, they're full-blown miracles. Get ready for these heart-pounding, real-life escapes that prove one thing: humans are a lot tougher than we think. Aaron Rolston. What would you do if your arm was pinned by an 800-pound boulder? You were completely alone, and no one even knew you were missing? In 2003, Aaron Rolston faced exactly that. Hiking in Utah's Blue John Canyon, a freak accident left him trapped in a narrow crevice. For 5 days, he rationed food and water, filmed goodbye messages, and tried everything to free himself. With no help coming, he made a decision that shocked the world. He amputated his arm using a dull multi-tool. After freeing himself, he rappelled down a cliff one-handed and hiked until he found help. His determination didn't just save his life, it turned him into a global symbol of grit and survival. Aaron's story later became the film 127 Hours, but nothing can capture the sheer courage it took to make that choice. And if you think cutting off your own arm is intense, imagine falling from the sky and surviving. Julian Kipka's survival story begins in the sky, literally. In 1971, her flight over the Peruvian Amazon was struck by lightning. The plane broke apart mid-air, and Julianne, just 17, plummeted over 10,000 feet to the rainforest below, still strapped to her seat. Everyone else on board perished, but against all odds, she survived. Injured, dazed, and completely alone, she began an 11-day trek through one of the most dangerous jungles on Earth. With only a bag of candy, a broken collarbone, and one shoe, she followed a stream, her only lifeline, until she reached help. Trained by her biologist parents, Julianne used every ounce of her knowledge to survive. Her tale remains one of the greatest miracles in aviation history. Not only did she survive a fall from the sky, but she conquered the Amazon jungle without any gear or support. Now let's move from the jungle to the ocean, where one man drifted for over a year: Jose Salvador Alvarenga. In 2012, Jose Salvador Alvarenga, a fisherman from El Salvador, set out for a routine fishing trip off the Mexican coast. What followed was anything but routine. A storm disabled his boat, and he drifted deep into the Pacific Ocean. His fishing partner died within weeks, leaving Jose utterly alone. For 438 days, yes, over a year, he survived by catching birds, turtles, and fish with his hands. He drank rainwater and even his own urine to stay alive. Sharks circled, the sun scorched, and the isolation was unbearable. He prayed, he hallucinated, but he refused to die. Eventually, he washed ashore on a remote island in the Marshall Islands, shocking the locals who found him. Doctors called it a miracle. He had lost 50 pounds, but somehow stayed alive. His is the longest known survival story at sea, and proof that when everything fails, human will doesn't. From sea to history, our next survivor battled the Atlantic during a world war. Poon Lim World War II had many unbelievable stories, but Poon Lim's might be the most astonishing. In 1942, his British merchant ship was torpedoed by a German U-boat. He was the last to escape, armed with just a life jacket and unmatched willpower. He climbed onto a wooden raft and spent the next 133 days drifting alone in the Atlantic Ocean. Using biscuit tins and fishing hooks he crafted himself, he caught fish and collected rainwater and canvas. He even snatched birds from the sky. At one point, sharks circled his raft for days, but he never gave in to fear. Poon once spotted a passing ship and signaled only for it to ignore him, likely fearing a German trap. When he was finally rescued by Brazilian fishermen, he was barely alive but completely conscious. His calm, clever thinking and absolute determination turned what should have been a death sentence into one of the longest solo survival stories ever recorded. Now swap ice for fire. Our next survivor got lost in the Sahara Desert. Maro Prosper imagined running a marathon and ending up nearly dead in the middle of the Sahara Desert. In 1994, Maro Prosper, an Italian policeman, was competing in the Marathon des Sables, a 6-day ultramarathon across the desert. A violent sandstorm blew him off course and he got completely lost. With only a few energy bars and limited water, he survived by drinking his own urine and eating bats he found in an abandoned shrine. He even tried to end his life, but failed due to severe dehydration. After 9 days and over 180 miles off course, Maro finally stumbled upon a nomadic family who helped him. Doctors said he lost nearly 40 pounds and was moments from death. But he survived, and in the most Maro move ever, he returned years later to finish the race. His grit and sheer refusal to quit make this story unforgettable. Now, if you think deserts are unforgiving, Antarctica might just be colder and crueler. Douglas Morrison. Douglas Morrison, an Australian explorer, set off in 1912 to chart unclaimed parts of Antarctica. With 2 teammates, he trekked across one of Earth's harshest environments. Disaster soon followed. One teammate and most supplies vanished down a crevasse. The second died soon after, likely from poisoning or starvation. Alone and with frostbitten feet, Morrison began a terrifying solo journey back to base. His skin peeled off, his hair fell out, and he was starving. He even made a sled out of spare parts and dragged himself across the icy wasteland. After a month, he finally reached the station, only to discover the rescue ship had left hours earlier. He spent another year stranded before being picked up. Morrison's strength wasn't just physical, it was mental. His story is a chilling, literal cold case of human will versus nature. And speaking of storms, what if you were picked up and thrown by a tornado and survived? Matt Suda. At 19, Matt Suda was visiting his grandparents in Missouri when an EF2 tornado ripped through their trailer. As the walls collapsed and wind howled, a lamp hit Matt in the head and knocked him out. When he regained consciousness, he was outside, wet, bruised and barefoot, in a field nearly a quarter mile away. He had been thrown 1,307 feet through the air. Despite a few scratches and a torn eardrum, he was alive. Scientists say surviving a tornado toss of that distance is almost impossible. To this day, Matt holds the Guinness World Record for the longest distance ever survived in a tornado. His case still baffles researchers and gives new meaning to the phrase blown away. Matt's survival wasn't just lucky, it was miraculous. From air to ice, our next survivor took on one of the most desolate places on Earth, alone. Ada Blackjack. In 1921, Ada Blackjack joined an expedition to claim Wrangel Island for Canada. She wasn't an explorer, just an Inupiat seamstress hired to sew and cook. But when the mission failed, 3 men went searching for help and never returned. The 4th died of illness. Ada was left completely alone in the Arctic, facing starvation, blizzards, and polar bears. She hunted seals, trapped foxes, read a Bible for hope, and even nursed an injured cat. For 2 whole years, she battled freezing winds, loneliness, and the fear that no one would come. Finally, in 1923, a rescue team arrived to find her alive and calm. Despite her bravery, Ada faced harsh judgment back home. But today, she's remembered as the real-life female Robinson Crusoe, resilient, resourceful, and quietly heroic. Next up, a man who survived in a sunken ship's air pocket, 100 feet underwater, Harrison Oini. In 2013, Nigerian cook Harrison Oini experienced something straight out of a horror movie. His tugboat capsized in rough seas and sank 100 feet below the surface. Everyone else on board drowned, except Harrison. Miraculously, he found himself in a small air pocket inside a bathroom. In total darkness, freezing cold, and surrounded by corpses, he survived for nearly 3 days. He had only 1 can of soda and no food. Harrison used floating wood to stay above the water and prayed continuously. Just as he lost hope, divers arrived to retrieve bodies and were stunned to find him alive. He was brought up slowly to avoid decompression sickness, spending 2 more days in a pressurized chamber. Today, Harrison is a certified diver himself. Yep, the guy who was once trapped underwater now works beneath the sea by choice. Speaking of falling into the deep, Our next survivor was literally launched from the sky, without a parachute. Vesna Velovic, a Serbian flight attendant, holds the world record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute, 33,000 feet. In 1972, a suspected bomb exploded aboard her plane mid-flight. Everyone else died instantly. Vesna, somehow strapped into a section of the plane's tail, plummeted into a snowy hillside in Czechoslovakia. Her fall was cushioned by pine trees and soft snow. She suffered a fractured skull, broken legs, crushed vertebrae, and was briefly in a coma, but she survived. Even more shocking, she had no memory of the crash. Doctors couldn't explain it, calling it a miracle. She later became a national hero and returned to work for the airline in an administrative role. Vesna's survival still baffles aviation experts and remains one of the most surreal human survival stories in history. Now from a one-person miracle to an entire group trapped in one of the world's most dangerous places. The Wild Boars in 2018, 12 boys from a Thai soccer team and their coach explored the Temluang cave after practice. Then the rain started. A flash flood filled the passageways, trapping them over 2 miles inside the cave. With no way out, the boys survived 9 days with no food, drinking water from dripping stalactites. They meditated to conserve energy and kept digging into the cave wall, hoping to escape. A miracle happened when 2 British divers found them, huddled together in the dark. But getting them out was another massive challenge. Thai Navy SEALs and an international team of divers pulled off an incredible rescue over 3 days. Each boy was fitted with a full face mask and guided by expert divers through narrow, water-filled tunnels. All survived. One rescuer tragically lost his life, but the story ended in triumph. Next, a true tale of survival and unity that feels like a real-life version of Lord of the Flies, but with a better ending. The Tongan Castaways. In 1965, 6 Tongan schoolboys, ages 13 to 16, decided to skip school and steal a boat for an adventure. But a storm wrecked their plans and their boat. They drifted for 8 days without food or water before spotting an uninhabited island called Ata. Most would expect disaster. But unlike the chaos of Lord of the Flies, these boys built a society. They created a garden, built a chicken coop, stored rainwater in hollowed-out tree trunks, and took turns keeping a watch for rescue. They even had a handmade gym and a fire that never went out. After 15 months, a passing fisherman spotted them. All 6 were healthy and alive. Their story is proof that cooperation, not chaos, can win in extreme situations. Today, they remain lifelong friends. If being stranded for over a year isn't impressive enough, how about surviving the Titanic Drunk? Charles Jukin. When the Titanic sank in 1912, hundreds perished in the freezing Atlantic. But Charles Jukin, the ship's chief baker, had a secret survival weapon: whiskey. After giving up his seat on a lifeboat to others, he returned to his quarters and drank several tumblers of liquor. As the ship went down, he threw deck chairs overboard for flotation, then rowed the stern into the icy water. Incredibly, he spent hours in the freezing ocean without succumbing to hypothermia. Why? Experts believe the alcohol thinned his blood, keeping it from freezing too fast. Eventually, he was pulled into a lifeboat. Barely conscious but alive. While this method isn't exactly recommended by doctors, Charles Jukin's calm under pressure and under the influence makes him one of the Titanic's most unusual survivors. Whether it was grit, luck, or sheer human stubbornness, these people pushed past every limit. They didn't just survive, they rewrote the rules of what survival even means. Which of these left you speechless? Drop your favorite in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.